Hello, you're watching or listening to 15 Minutes or Less with me, Mabs.
Pastor.
Well, hello and welcome everybody. And we are on to the letter V in our quest to travel the alphabet of random subjects. And today we are on to veganism, which is...
an intense one.
I mean...
So many vegans.
I'm going to start the clock right now. It could be a very challenging episode. So I'm going to start by just going around the table, but I know the answer, but just in case you are listening and watching. Anyone here vegan? Any vegans?
We all meat eaters.
Yeah, no.
Omnivores.
Omnivores,
okay. Well, the reason we wanted to discuss veganism today is it has become considerably more popular, hasn't it, in recent years? Mm-hmm. I think there was certainly a time where if you said you were vegan, people probably would have handed you a cabbage and that's about it, and looked at you like, I don't know what to do with you. But I mean, that attitude has significantly shifted in recent years. There's a lot more mainstream acceptance of veganism in terms of food availability and diet. Does anyone here know what veganism is, though? Really?
Isn't it? You're not allowed to eat. Well, you wouldn't eat products that were where animals were somewhere used in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, it's further to that as well. It's not just about food, that is the main part of it, but it's a philosophy surrounding just any animal-based product. So that could be like the shampoos you use, the makeup you use, it could be the clothes you wear. Yeah, so it is a way of life that people choose to live. What are our general thoughts on veganism around the table? Does anyone have any kind of like views that think it's not great or it's really great?
Well, I've heard stuff against it.
Okay.
I did some research for this episode, and it was very interesting because there was a program on BBC that they were looking to, is it actually better for the planet to be vegan? And they were arguing being vegan could, equally harm environment. And they were like on the other side, because some people do vegan for the health reason, and there are lots of facts against that as well, that it's not actually beneficial for your health to be vegan.
It's a very widely controversial area because I think depending on what side of the fence you're on, you're going to have a very distinctive view either way. See, obviously there are a lot of studies that Parastu's kind of highlighted here that suggest that it's not as great as you may think. Like it may have things that cause you to actually have deficiencies in your diet. But equally, there are as many studies that say it's the most amazing thing you can do for yourself ever. Does anyone ever fancy just trying it, like going vegan for a week, seeing if you can avoid any meat or dairy or anything?
I really like to try it, but I think the part that I would find very hard is not having eggs. I think maybe I could, tolerate vegan cheese, but not having egg is very hard.
Cheese is a downfall for me.
Yeah, cheese, the other one.
Cheese.
Yeah, I mean, have you tried vegan cheese? Because that has been a...
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a vegan cheese pizza in... I can't remember where that was, but that was pretty good actually.
No, like actual vegan cheese. We had cheese and wine nights at uni, and I have a lot of vegan friends, so they bought different vegan cheeses, and they all just plastic blocks of they looked disgusting. They didn't taste very nice.
No.
I think one of them might have tasted nice out of whole cheese boards that they had.
I know a lot of them are sort of coconut oil based, aren't they? The better ones. You tried one, Amy White?
No, I haven't, but that's what I say. If they could find a good cheese, cheese, chicken, and bacon. If they found a good,
etc.
that were vegan friendly, then I could turn vegan, because there are a lot of things like brown ingredients that I do.
Chicken and bacon.
Bacon goes so well with so many things. It just smokes up a bit of food.
I think this kind
But
of
you can
defeats the object of veganism.
Yeah, I mean,
but not bacon. If they made
fake bacon.
They do make bacon.
But I have tried a lot of fake bacon.
That's not the same though, is it?
it's all been a bit blur.
One
about
of the
choosing.
study I was looking into, it was actually arguing having bacon is better for environment than being vegan because the amount of water you need to, grow like lettuce. And because the calorie is very low, you have to eat lots of lettuce in compared to like you would have 2 pieces of bacon. And so that was the argument basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of studies that I sort of read in advance of this podcast, they sort of show that vegan diets tend to provide more fiber, more antioxidants, and, obviously it's sort of plant-based diet generally. But they seem to be richer in potassium, magnesium, vitamins A, C, and E. But if you can have a poor vegan diet, which I think is the thing people forget. I think especially where it's become very popular recently, and it's like almost become trendy, I think, in some ways, which isn't always a bad thing. But I think it's very easy for people to have a very bad vegan diet because a lot of convenience foods have come out now in your supermarkets.
So much vegan junk food.
Yeah,
now.
yeah, absolutely. And that's not, again, a bad thing in moderation, but just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's good for you. It doesn't mean it's healthy.
You have to be very educated in order to have a balanced vegan diet. Because one of the big one is B12.
Yeah, B12, yeah.
Which you only get it through fish, red meat, and eggs and stuff like that. And in order to, I think almond has it, but you have to eat lots of almond in order to.
I mean, you can take supplements.
Yeah.
I
Which
have
I think-
injections.
Yeah, B12 injections. Yeah.
Every 3 months for the rest of my life. It's great.
Nice.
But it does the job. Does the
Yeah.
trick. So maybe that's what we'll all
Yeah.
do. Maybe if we all go fully vegan around the world, we'll just have a little jab once a year, a little booster of all the things we're lacking on. I mean, it's other things as well. It's like essential fatty acids, iron, calcium, zinc, that kind of thing. Like, I mean, you can have these in supplements, and you can, if you plan your diet well, obviously not have these issues. But I think the trouble is a lot of people would make the switch, and that's not even necessarily true of just people that are vegan. You could be vegetarian and be a very unhealthy vegetarian. But I suppose the wider part of it as well is it's not just about the benefits health wise. I mean, it's obviously there's a lot of stuff to suggest like your mental well-being is better for having a plant-based diet, and obviously if you are into the veganism thing, because it's not just about diet, it's also about your way of life. Of course, there's the whole animal cruelty thing. So maybe like these arguments about environment and water usage, like but you're not harming animals, you're not killing animals.
But there was another argument that like when you, in case of quinoa, because that's one of the big vegan source of food, and I forgot which place they're growing it, but basically they have to kick out all the llamas in that area because they want that area for the quinoa, and they destroy the soil as well in the process. I think the main issue is capitalism.
Yeah.
It all comes down to if you have to mass produce for financial benefit, you're going to harm human health, you're going to harm animals, you're going to harm the planet. But like if we eat everything in moderation and, we all be mindful of not wasting food, that's the best thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say one of the biggest shifts for me in recent years is I'm not vegan, but like I don't think I ever would have even contemplated having a vegan meal maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Like, but now I would quite happily have several vegan meals a week that have no dairy, have no animal produce in, and that's actually quite easy to fit into my lifestyle. And
that's so true.
Yeah, and it's quite cheap actually. Like people think, oh, it's so expensive, but it isn't if you make stuff yourself. That's also part of the problem, isn't it? We're always seeking convenience.
Yeah, I think meat's the most expensive part of a meal though normally.
Yeah.
So if you find alternatives,
Yeah.
I've just always struggled with what to do for meals when you're not including meat, but there is so many more options now that it does make it a little bit easier.
And you can always, I think in recent years, you can easily see the sign on the package. They include it now. Like, I don't think it was the case in the past.
No, even in restaurants, they've only just started doing like vegan sections for people. I know with my nan, she has an intolerance to dairy, so she'll pick a vegan option because she knows that it's got no dairy in it. So,
Yeah.
you know, like having that on a menu should be something that everyone does already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask actually around the table, you know, if veganism is so great, you know, because there's all these health benefits and it's, you know, supposedly better for the planet too, although there's sort of counter arguments to that point, you know, and obviously it's hugely beneficial to animal welfare. It's like, why isn't everybody vegan? If it's so clear cut, like if it's all this, it's so great. Like, I mean, none of us around the table here are vegan. So why is that?
But there were.
Amy's addicted to bacon, and so am I.
But do you think that comes from a young age? Do you think that comes from how you're raised? Do you think that's, you know, because you have a meat-based diet from when you're young? Because
Yeah,
I've known and met people that are
so.
like, I'm vegetarian, I've been vegetarian my whole life. I was maybe a bit rebellious when I was a teenager because I hated my parents and I ate a cheeseburger. But like now I'm this again,
I definitely think it's to do with how you're raised. I even think that is actually part of the problem. I think we're never given the option to know what we're eating and where it comes from. We're just given it by our parents. And I think it's difficult because I do know that parents obviously want to do well for their children and give them all the nutrients they need. But there's also that mental fight you end up having, and this is my life now. I'm an absolute animal lover, so being a vegetarian is something that toys with my emotions a lot, and I hate that I eat meat and what it means and where my meat comes from. But because I was raised with meat, it's now something that is part of my life, so removing that part is hard, especially when I grew up such a fussy eater as a child, and I'm now starting to enjoy so many more foods, so many more different ways meats have been cooked, with, like, you know, everything basically with food. And now I'm battling with my emotional side. Well, now I know what's happening to the animals. We were all brought up and raised on the thing that cows are all in fields and pigs are in fields and, you know, lovely little sheep are being looked after. But no, like baby lamb is baby lambs, you know. And veal, unfortunately, in the meat world, you know, when you're doing anything that's to do with cows, whether it's milk or, you know, eating beef, you're contributing to the whole cycle that mum cows are used for milk when they have babies. If the boys are stripped and used for veal because male meat is no good because it's too tough to be used as steak. Every bit of steak or beef you eat is a female cow, and she would have gone probably through a milking life or something where life would have been tough. The baby boys would have been stripped for them, so that would have been an emotional journey for a female.
And also that's part of it, isn't it? I suppose is like, you know, giving a name to a type of meat, a cut of meat. It does disconnect that relationship to the animal.
Of course it does.
You know,
Yeah.
I think I have this weird sort of thing of remembering when I was a kid, I went and stayed somewhere like a family friend's farm or something, and a few days later they basically were like, oh, that thing you're eating now is blah, who you saw 3 days ago. And I was like, oh my God.
And you know what the worst thing is?
Yeah.
They're putting food into shapes that totally then make you destroyed. Like turkey in the shape of dinosaurs. Like dinosaurs have never been around.
Yeah,
in
like a
time,
turkey dinosaur is a kind of thing that just doesn't make sense to
So
me.
do you know what I mean? Like kids are totally disjointed from where their food comes
Yeah,
from.
fish-
Ban those though.
And a fish
Yes,
finger
guys.
looks nothing
No,
like
it's still
fish. It's just, I mean, it's outrageous. But I think a lot of the points that you raised, Amy, which are very, very good points, kind of lead back to what you were saying, Paris. It's kind of about the capitalist way of farming and making produce. It's like every single inch and has to be, you know, money has to be made. And you're sold this idea of it's this kind of like healthy life for animals, but it isn't. It's like mass produced, factory farmed, very poor conditions. Even in this country, we are pretty good with standards, but we still have awful things happen here. Even if you remove the fact that, you know, animals are just being killed to be eaten. Like, so...
There's also a big problem with the fact that there's so many more people on the earth now to supply for. Every year we quadruple, whatever it is. It's crazy. There are more people alive on the earth than there ever has been dead. Like in all the time that the earth has existed, that's the crazy thing, and it's only going to get worse.
Well, it's unsustainable, isn't it? And that's one of the things people kind of point to, the whole vegan lifestyle and plant-based diet being something that is more sustainable. But it depends how it's farmed. It depends what it is you're eating. You know, soya is one of the massive things in vegan foods and diets, and that can be
And what
terrible.
would be the impact if everyone went vegan? Because would it just be the same as us now and what we're doing already?
Yeah, and I guess we're never really going to know that unless that happens.
Yeah.
One of the study was showing that vegetarian diet through generation, it would affect DNA and it would cause cancer because of some chemical change in your DNA through generation. Obviously, like if I became vegetarian, that doesn't cause cancer for me. But like, let's say, like another generation after me, like my children, they would more likely to get that sort of cancer.
Well, that's quite a heavy point to end on, but that has been 15 minutes. So that was veganism. We'd really be interested to hear your thoughts on it, actually. Maybe you've tried the Greg's vegan sausage roll. I know some people have around here. We didn't get to talk about that. But yeah, like, just tell us if you tried that. It's literally the worst way I could possibly
Maybe
end.
we need to do our own vegan week here and try
Vegan week.
Vegan week.
at work.
That's not bad.
Yeah, we should do it.
That's not a bad way of ending things. Okay, all right, well, this has been 15 minutes or less. Thanks for listening and watching. We'll be back again next time where we'll talk about something that we're not experts on. That's generally how it goes, isn't it? Okay, all right, bye then.